if you're not cutting any corners, then it's gonna fail for the right reasons. It'd be way cheaper if I used a lower quality meat. It'd be way cheaper if I didn't use bison. There's all these things I could do to make it way cheaper to produce and way cheaper to sell to customers. I'm not interested in that because then I'm just playing the same game that all the other guys are playing. Most of the industry uses what's called an encapsulated acid. As the temperature rises, that hydrogenated oil melts, exposing the acid to the meat, which then starts that fermentation process. That oil doesn't just evaporate, so that goes into the meat.
So that's how you know if it says that you should probably stay away from the stick.
In my opinion, yeah.
Based on what you've seen.
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
research.
In my opinion, yeah.
Trev, what's happening, brother?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here, man. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it has.
We have our mutual friend Kari to thank for this.
We do. Shout out Kari.
Shout out Kari. She's
Yeah.
the best. Incredible mom. Awesome person. Is she in Georgia now?
She's in Georgia.
So she's no longer an Austinite, but
moved to Georgia with the fella, and yeah, she's amazing. So
definitely. And so why we're referencing Kari is, so she's our shared mutual friend. That's how we met. And super awesome mom, based into like paleo lifestyle, cooks her meals, super healthy for her daughter too. And I remember getting a DM from her and she was like, you have to meet my buddy Trevor. He's coming out with this awesome meat bar concept.
Yeah.
And I think you guys would get along really well. And he's an amazing dude above anything else. And so I remember us meeting up for coffee a little over, was it about a year ago or maybe a little less than that? Because I think it was before KetoCon.
It was before KetoCon.
But it was close to a year.
But it's, I mean, it was early on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been, let's just call it a year.
Yeah. And you brought us some samples to try and they were absolutely incredible. It was like one of the best meat products that we'd ever had.
Yeah.
And so we just stayed connected. And now at the time of releasing this podcast, MANBAR, which is your company, will officially be live, which is incredible. It's an amazing grass-finished bison and beef stick. Is that the right way to describe it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's so when we first met, I'll do a quick backstory. When we first met, I was making a bison and almond bar out of my house. Yeah. And it was something that I was making for me. I had a bunch of meat in the freezer. It actually started with animals that I had hunted. So I was doing it with venison and axis and wild pig. And then once, basically a lot of friends started wanting them because they tasted really good. Yeah. And so I had to rethink of like, well, I can't commercialize those meats. So went with the bison and almond bar, and then that's when we met. Yeah. And kind of long story short, I guess we can get into it more later, but there's a problem with the nuts. Was having trouble finding someone who would introduce allergens into their facility. And so rethought the product and now have this very high fat bison and beef stick. It's big. It's all regenerative animals. There's a lot of fat. Most sticks have 10-15%. Ours has 30. And it's really good.
Yeah, I was just about to say the fat content stands out, right? Like as opposed to like a standard, meat stick or Slim Jim, something like that. Like
ours is ours is probably double to triple most in terms of grams of fat. Yeah. Most sticks out there. So we've got 17 grams of fat in ours.
That's unreal. And for people who are, active or, just want something that has a little bit more sustenance than just like a protein bar, you're able to get that fat. Like there really isn't, besides like, like a pemmican bar, there really isn't anything else out there like what you guys have.
Yeah, the formulation was very... So I started this, it was basically the intersection of, I've always been very active. I love hunting and I love cooking for people. And so that's how it started. But from the training side of things, I was just looking for like energy bombs. You know, it's my friend group and I, like most people, especially here in Austin. I mean, we're snowboarding, we're surfing, we're rock climbing, we're training. It's like we're doing a lot of stuff, and we're just tired of eating like 2 to 3 of the other sticks.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was basically that was kind of as simple as it sounds, the mentality of like, what if I just make a really big one?
A lot.
And then once you start with that, then you start getting into looking at the quality and ingredients and the formulation of it and all that. So, but yeah, it came from a very utilitarian perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing connecting the dots backwards, how everything works out the way that it's supposed to, because I do very vividly remember meeting you, and the initial, like the meat and nut bar, the bison with the nuts, was incredible. It tasted so good. But then, as you know, like the logistics of CPG and manufacturing and nuts, it's really fun digging into all that kind of stuff. And, you know, that ultimately didn't work out, but that led to what you have now, which I think is actually a better product. And it's such a unique concept of actually having grass-finished bison and beef, but 30% fat.
Yeah.
Which is massive, because there's so many great products that are out there. But a lot of times I'll have a beef stick from like a reputable brand, and I'm like, this is great, but I probably need like 3 of these things to actually be hungry. And it's because the saturated fat is so low in most of these bars.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. It's, yeah, you know, kind of the dream of when you're in the kitchen of what you're going to make versus the reality once you get started. But I'm happy it happened because it forced me to look at kind of what was important. I was dead set against making a stick in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, everyone's making sticks. I've got a unique product. But through this process, then like with constraints, it's you start rethinking things and you look at it from a different perspective. And so, yeah, we came up with this, and like you said, it's like it had to be satiating. Like it had to. I wanted to eat one and keep going.
Yeah.
You know, I talked about one of my buddies who's helping, and just this idea of when you're doing stuff you want to do, you don't necessarily want to break to go eat lunch or dinner. It's like you're in that, if you want to call it flow state, whatever it is, but just if you're having fun, like on a powder day in the mountains, I don't want to stop and go get a bowl of chili from, you know, from the resort area.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I want to keep going, and I want to send as much vert as I can that day. And, you know, if I can have a couple sticks on me, like perfect.
Yeah. And with the right snacks, you feel amazing too. And you actually get energy from your food. So many people haven't conditioned their minds to realize that like the right food actually is medicine, and it can also taste delicious, but give you the right nutrients to fuel your day and actually feel better afterwards. But I totally agree with you. I think when I typically feel in the flow state is when I'm as strict to carnivore as possible. Like, even though I do enjoy fruits and vegetables and carbs and things like that, if it's straight meat, like my mind, the mental acuity is amazing. So I feel like your bar just perfectly supports that, where it's like I can just bang one quick for lunch if I can't eat, and I'm good to go. Yeah,
the mental side of things is, again, from the training world. I'll do a quick aside. So the bison and almond bar was heavily influenced by Charles Poliquin's meat and nut breakfast. That got popularized. He would basically force his athletes to use it. But the reasons for it is because mentally, that high protein and high fat targets neurotransmitters. It's acetylcholine and dopamine that are most associated with drive, energy, and focus. And so he wanted his guys to be mentally ready for these grueling workouts. On top of that, that combo is more satiating. So you don't have to eat as much. You're not going into a workout just, you know, bloated and full and all that. So there's also that aspect of it. So, you know, I'm certainly not an Olympic athlete or a professional athlete, but, you know, we're all very active.
Yeah.
We all like doing stuff, and there's no reason those benefits can't transfer to us. And especially, I mean, I just turned 39.
Yeah.
You know, anything I can do to help stay lean
is edge, baby.
I'm going to do it.
Totally.
So there's a ton of benefits, like genuine benefits to it.
Yeah.
Ton of utility to it, and I thought there was no reason why we couldn't make it bigger and taste better. So
we had an awesome conversation over at our office. What was it, a week ago now?
Yeah.
And I feel like you were just dropping so many just like little learnings along the way that you have just iterated through and been able to like find resolutions for. You're still like kind of like percolating on some of them.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you've been talking about is just going from one product to the next. And I'm wondering, for anyone who's listening, who's an entrepreneur, was there anything that you were doing in order to get feedback so that you could find the right formulation for these products, other than just like your own, hey, like try these, let me know what you think? Just because I feel like that feedback can be so valuable for people. And a lot of times, you know, you don't really know necessarily who to turn to give you that good data.
Yeah. So there was, when I first started making these, I was giving them out to friends, and my friends were very quickly asking about them and what is this? Like, can you make me some? They're like, we'll pay you. And I had probably a dozen friends say that, within like 2 weeks, because I was just having people over. When they come over, you feed them, and so I was, hey, try these, throw them one. And so it happened enough where I was like, something's going on here. So that's right before we met, because I went out after that. I made some samples and just went out and was just looking for feedback, like you said, of like, is this just my buddies gassing me up, or or do I have something here?
Yeah.
And just was planning to do feedback, but ended up doing about, I think in 4 days in 3 days I did $4,000 in pre-sales.
Wow.
And this is old school, walking up to people, hey, try this.
Oh, dang.
This is what it's about. Nothing online, no ads, no marketing, no website. So I was just talking to people from the get-go. And that is essentially what I did the whole last year. Is just every time I'd iterate, I'd go out and I'd talk to people, have them try it, get feedback. What do you like about it? What don't you like? What are you using it for, to the people that I'd give samples to? So I think that, I mean that, I guess that, I don't know if that's what you're asking, but that's my answer, is face-to-face conversations with people that are actually using it, and not trying to, I don't know. There's a time for technology. I felt like that wasn't the time.
Yeah.
And so that was my process. Just a lot of iterating and a lot of talking to people.
Yeah, you can't beat that direct feedback from people that are actually consuming the product. Like you said, like some people, like if you give it to your buddies, maybe you're getting some inauthentic feedback, but just getting in person feedback on how they could use the product, what they think of the taste, is huge.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Trying to think. Yeah, and then you get all that, you do all that work, and this is probably where my inexperience came in, is just not knowing what you could and couldn't do with like on the manufacturing and co-packing side. So I had all this momentum, and then it was, I mean, we went to KetoCon. Y'all very graciously let me sling some bars from y'all's table before I got shut down. But talking to co-packers and manufacturers, it was just like beating my head against a wall for like 3 or 4 months. I don't know how much of that y'all have done with Noble, but
it's tough. I mean, luckily the supplement space is so much different. I mean, the pure meat space is so much harder than the supplement space, but still, it's like you need to find a good co-packer, and people don't realize these great brands are all dependent on finding the right co-packer that can really work with you and support you too. So obviously that's something that you've experienced.
Yeah. So 3 or 4 months of banging your head against the wall. No one wanted to introduce allergens. No one wanted to do sticks, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone was talking about sticks, though. I was like, man, like I said, I don't want to do a stick. Yeah. There's a million of those out there.
Yeah.
But it got to the point, by like that month 4 where it was like, man, like nothing is progressing. Like I got to rethink this. And so that's kind of when I went back to the drawing board and just started thinking of like, all right, if you had to do a stick, what would it look like? What would it do? I already knew I wanted, the bars were already a larger size. So I was like, definitely, that's a definite. What is the purpose of the nuts with the protein, with the meat? Really, you're just looking at high protein, high fat. Yeah. All right. How do I formulate that? Why does every stick have 10 or 15% fat in it? Can I get away with doubling that? And so I found a co-packer who would work with me, and within 6 weeks I had product in hand. Wow. Yeah, it was awesome.
How good of a feeling was that? Dude, especially banging your head off the wall for 4 months.
Yeah, the best.
So you're like, all right, this is why people are telling me to go sticks, because it's just way faster to get up and running, right?
Yeah. So the first batch you sent me was good. Yeah. I mean, it was good. If we couldn't have changed anything, I would have been happy going to market with that. But I went back to him and I was like, I need them bigger, and like, what if we add more fat? And he was like, we've never done that before. And I go, will it work from like a shelf stability and, you know, kind of all that stuff that you got to worry about too? Like, will it be fine? He goes, it'll be fine from a shelf stability standpoint. We've just never done it. I go, let's try it.
Yeah.
I was like, y'all got some meat there. And I went with beef fat because for cost, bison isn't cheap. And also I thought that the beef fat would be bison fat can be a little more gamey.
Yeah.
I don't mind it at all. I hunt and, you know, I love game animals, but I figured that'd be a more approachable flavor for some people. So that's why we use beef fat with it. There's also some stuff on the back, regulatory and all that I can not get around like in an illegal sense, but like get around like some extra costs and stuff. So we did that. He pumped it full of beef fat and sent it back, and they were the perfect size, and the taste was unbelievable. And I was like, all right, let's do it. We got a product.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And bison fat is hard to come by too. I don't think people realize how lean they actually are. Like,
they're very lean.
I would be curious if you could actually get bison fat from a grass-finished bison.
You can.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got, our ranch that we source from is up in Wisconsin.
Nice.
All regenerative, grass-fed, grass-finished. They've been doing that for a couple decades. I've had them send me different, what's it called, ratios. You know, normally it's like a 90-10, 85-15 protein to fat. So I had them send me a 80-20 one time and a 75-25 mix. And it's, again, it was fine, but their fat's a little waxier.
Yeah.
It's a little more gamey, for lack of a better word. And
that's another thing too, is I'm sure, like you were saying, you've got the hunting palate, so you probably have no issues with the 75-25. That's even with Noble, you forget you have to customize, like you have to think about the palate of the average customer, not like the extremist like you.
Correct.
Right, where Harry and I were like, we can make this thing less sweet. Yeah. We're like, no, but the average person that's probably not accustomed to organ meats needs something that's a little bit more sweet with stevia.
For sure.
So you start to experience that stuff and kind of put yourself in the customer's shoes, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like this healthy balance of bringing your own strong opinion to the table when it comes to formulation, but also understanding that, like, you know, us are already in a unique space where it's like, you know, most people don't love the gaminess of grass-fed, grass-finished beef, which to me, I'm like, I love it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to find that healthy balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly, I mean, you just said it. It's like, what are you willing to budge on and what aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, that to me was kind of a lower tier issue, as long as I had the macros right and the taste right and the ingredients right, which, you know, we talked a little bit about, like the process that we use and how it's different from the industry standard.
Yeah.
The lack of encapsulated acids and all that. So we can touch on that if you want.
You should talk about that, because neither of us knew anything about that until last week when you told us. Okay.
So most of the industry uses what's called an encapsulated acid. Usually it's typically an encapsulated lactic acid or an encapsulated citric acid. That is typically derived from like a GMO wheat or corn. The encapsulated part is they literally, for lack of a better word, like dip it, you know, encapsulate it in a hydrogenated seed oil. And the reason they do that is A, it's cheaper. B, it allows you to cook things at a higher temperature. It's like a heat activated. And it's very stable. So it's, you know, if you're making doing big batches, like you're going to you want to get the same results every time.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to do that when you're introducing a higher temperature and a lot of volume. So that's why they're used. Brings the cost of the, you know, lowers the cost to the end consumer.
Yeah.
Lowers their cost to make it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why they're used. Most of the industry use that. That's the standard. So I don't like that. for kind of lack of a better term. It's just like that. I didn't want to produce something that had that in there, because what happens is you mix it in with the meat, you throw it in the oven. As the temperature rises, that hydrogenated oil melts, exposing the acid to the meat, which then starts that fermentation process. Well, that oil doesn't just evaporate.
Right.
So that goes into the meat. You're able to make these, kind of the whole process is probably I don't know, let's call it 3-4 hour process. So pretty quick. But again, even for the guys that are claiming grass-fed and finished animals, pasture-raised, whatever it may be, in my opinion, you're kind of messing that up by putting this stuff in there.
Yeah.
Right.
So they can market that we're using this high-quality meat and all that, but when you put that stuff in there, it's like, well, you should have just used the
cheap,
poor quality meat, because what's the point?
Yeah. And you don't have to put it on the label? Like,
no, you have... Their ingredients lists will say encapsulated acid.
Gotcha.
So, yeah,
but that just like covers up the fact that you don't have to say like canola oil or whatever oil is going to be kind of associated.
No, I mean, no, you definitely don't have to do that.
Yeah.
It's I'm trying to think. I can't recall off the top of my head if anyone's saying like no seed oils on their package with that on their ingredient list. But
I feel like I've never seen anything like the encapsulated acid.
You'll see on the ingredient list,
Okay.
it'll say encapsulated lactic acids on 9 out of 10 sticks that you pick up.
Gotcha.
So that's how you know if it says that, you should probably stay away from the stick.
In my opinion, yeah.
Based on what you've seen in
Yeah,
your research.
In my opinion, yeah. I don't know, obviously, the details of everyone's business and what they're doing, but
yeah.
So our process, how that differs is we use a starter culture, and so that is just a different process. It's a slower process, it's a more expensive process, but it allows you to it's derived from a non-GMO beet. And so you mix that with the meat, and then you have this kind of low and slow fermentation process, which now you're not getting the GMO stuff. You're not getting the seed oils.
Yeah.
You're actually getting some probiotics in there.
Nice.
And that's why it's so easy on the gut. I know you've had some stomach issues, and I've got several friends that have had stomach issues, and they're totally fine eating our sticks, whereas the other ones will have them curled up in a ball. So we introduce a starter culture instead of the lactic acids. That's takes it from a 3 to 4 hour process to, let's call it 16, so 4 or 5 times longer. And it just makes for a better, cleaner product.
That's amazing.
I mean, I know y'all have had it. It's cleaner, it's tastier. Most importantly, it doesn't tie your stomach up in knots, if you have stomach issues. And so it's just, for me, it's just, if I'm going to be selling something, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to give I'm thinking of my friends, my family, and their kids. I don't want to give my kid's 3-year-old something that's not the best thing on the market. And good thing enough, I've got several of them that have 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
And their 3-year-olds love our sticks.
Yeah.
And the parents are happy because they know they're eating something, that's clean, of high quality.
Totally.
Well, that's amazing. It checks all the boxes where it's like, it's delicious, it's clean, it's nutrient dense, and that's the best feeling ever as a business owner. Like, when you truly have that confidence between the product that you're putting out into the world. Because if you're compromising on anything, it just comes across as like disingenuous while you're trying to sell it to people. But when for you, you're like, dude, I spent almost a year trying to perfect this recipe. Yeah. And that blood, sweat, and tears comes through. And now you have something that you're super proud of. So it's like, there's a lot of effort that went into that process, but that's what makes such a great product that you can be proud of, that other people are picking up on and noticing too. That's what we noticed, right? Like,
100%. Yeah, the quality of the bar was immediately a differentiator. in the flavor.
Thank you.
I'm curious, is there anything through this whole process that you wish you knew when you just were getting started, just to, maybe some of the bigger learnings that you've learned, anything that you wish you knew from the get-go?
I think that's hard because it's from, like, my background is physics and engineering. So I came into it, always loved cooking, so I had that for me, but the CPG, the food formulation for a shelf-stable product, all that, I was coming in, very, very ignorant. So I don't know. I mean, kind of, if you're starting from zero, it's been a really fun learning process.
Right.
And so there's been a ton of stuff I learned, like the encapsulated acid stuff, for example. And, you start looking at processing and manufacturing and labeling and, I mean, all the stuff, I'm sure y'all went through with Noble. I don't know if I can, certainly if I knew everything I knew now, it wouldn't have taken a year.
Yeah.
So maybe the next one will take, I'm starting to work on a hatch chili version of our sticks. And so that won't take a year.
Yeah. Well, there's something too, also, we had the founder of KG Barbecue, Kareem, on the podcast the other day.
So good.
Dude, unbelievable. His story's even better than the barbecue, which is incredible. But he was saying that he wished he didn't have this fear around making the decision to leave his corporate job to go pursue his passion. He kind of held this feeling of wishing that he had started sooner. And I think a lot of times we have this, feeling that, we wish we started sooner, or we wish we had this knowledge going into it. But there's something about just going through the process and really, like, being the person on the journey to equip yourself to get to the next level, or, have the right set of knowledge and skills to continue to actually make those leaps and bounds. So it is important to just, like, take every step and go brick by brick.
Yeah. I mean, that, I think once you find something that you want to pour yourself into, it's easy to say, I wish I would have done this sooner.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, all the stuff that happened sooner had to happen for you to get to that point anyways.
Totally.
Yes.
So, like, if I was doing this 10 years ago, that'd be great. Sweet. I'd have a 10-year head start. But the reality is 10 years ago, I wasn't hunting. 10 years ago, I was
probably in the Middle
traveling
East.
the world. I was traveling the world 10 years ago. So it was a lot of stuff had to happen for this to kind of all come together for me to be sitting here with y'all, and
Definitely.
and the previous stuff had to happen.
Yeah, it's cliche, but God's timing really is perfect, right? It's like you did have to have all those collective experiences to be the exact version of Trevor that's ready to start MANBAR, which makes it amazing. Another thing that I love that you've said to me before is, I think one of the first things I said to you is, like, are you going to bootstrap? Are you going to raise capital? And you were like, you had a really unique perspective where you're like, dude, I'm not in a rush with this thing. Like, I don't need to build, I'm not trying to build something and build like a $10 million company that I can sell for 15. And you're like, I want to do this. I want to build something that I'm so passionate about that I don't want to sell the business. I want to scale this thing over time and just make an amazing product that makes people healthier and taps into my community and everything like that. And I love that perspective, because it just seems like so many new founders are just in this, like, relentless rush and this hurry versus, like, if you just built something that was truly your life's mission and just take your time and make it as good as it can possibly be.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe it's just because I'm a little older now, I don't know what it is, but it's, the perspective is certainly, let's build something we're proud of. If it takes 5 years to get to $1 million, like, okay.
Yeah.
I think elongating the time frame allows you to obviously think longer term, but also if you're doing that, you're not cutting corners. And that's something that I feel very strongly about is just doing things the right way.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was something off about something. Product market fit, maybe it was too expensive, maybe whatever. But if you're not cutting any corners, then it's going to fail for the right reasons, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I don't want to do something like, for example, these things would be way cheaper if I used encapsulated acids.
Yep.
They'd be way cheaper if I used a lower quality meat. They'd be way cheaper if I didn't use bison.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these things I could do to make it way cheaper to produce and way cheaper to sell to customers. I'm not interested in that, because then I'm just playing the same game that all the other guys are playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they're bad or evil or anything like that. I don't think I'm better than them at that game.
Yeah.
I think I can build something really cool if I stay true to our messaging, not cutting any corners, doing things the right way, having a unique branding and messaging, and I'll create my own little something.
Yeah.
Or I won't, or it fails, and that, again, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I love that take, because I think the food space and, the CPG space in general, there's a lot of like fake, phony products out there, but the genuine ones tend to find the audience that really cares about what they're putting into their body, or just cares about the same thing, similarly aligned, similar missions, not willing to compromise on the little things. And I mean, in this food space, probably like 99% of companies are willing to make sacrifices. And it's obviously tough. Like, making product is not easy, but when you lead with that, when you lead with the mission, I think that you're differentiating yourself just based on values alone, which, I think for an early company is huge. Like, you find your true fans.
Yeah. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Or something to knock on.
Not something mass market, something that's actually very tailored to a certain customer base, people that, care about sourcing and fat content and where it comes from, and probably that are into hunting and the regenerative movement. It always reminds me of that article that Peter Drucker wrote of like 1,000 true fans. Instead of trying to get mass market appeal, find the 1,000 true fans that are super loyal, that will buy anything that you drop or promote. And I think that's something that we felt with the podcast of like, we're two young meat enthusiasts, kind of weirdos talking about all this stuff. And it's like other people resonate with that uniqueness too.
Yeah. I mean, I think sorry to cut you off.
No.
I think authenticity and just being who you are is probably pretty, people are drawn to that kind of no matter what it is. So.
Yeah. And the branding of what you're doing is really unique too. Obviously with MANBAR, you were talking to us passionately about this concept of like man hands and how we've kind of lost that as a society. I'd love to pick your brain a little bit more about it as you think about the branding and what you see around like the representation of MANBAR.
So the name came from, was a placeholder name in the beginning because I was making meat and nut bars.
Yeah.
So that's where the name came from, because I was just like, I was tired of saying meat and nut bars.
Yeah.
And so that's where it originally came from. But very quickly, when I started telling people that, the reactions I were getting were overwhelmingly positive. We can talk about some of the negative ones in a minute, but overwhelmingly positive. And it was a lot of men that were, when I'd say that, because I'd kind of said, be like, it's a placeholder name, but I'm calling them MANBARs, and their tone would change, and they'd be like, dude, you have to use that. Yeah, why? And they were like, you have to. Like, basically, it's like, and this was, a year ago, that kind of all the, I don't know, all this gender stuff is, we can talk about that too. But, that was a lot more in the headlines. And I think it was guys were, and women. I mean, Kari's a perfect example. Just really resonated with the name.
Yeah.
And it was surprising to me how much they were resonating with it. Because originally, like I said, it was just kind of a funny placeholder thing.
Yeah.
Where I was like, ooh, that might ruffle some feathers.
Yeah.
So from that, when I started getting that feedback, I again, face-to-face conversations with people and started working out what that meant, what it looked like, and all that. So, yeah, the brand is called MANBAR. It's a lot of our market are just men and women, but just people who are doing hard, interesting things. They're spending a lot of time outdoors. Yeah. They're, snowboarding, they're climbing, they're working on their craft. Our buddy Wyatt is a perfect example.
Legend.
Just, yeah. I can man crush on a 22-year-old. But, there's just a the word support kept coming up. And it's like, what kind of customers, who do I resonate with? What kind of people do I want to support? How can I support them? I think I've got the product that can support people.
Yeah.
When they're crushing a work day, when they're going to the office, to this podcast, to whatever you're doing after, to, it's like, we're all doing stuff.
Yeah.
We're all busy. We're all working hard, and so that started becoming more and more important, is like, I genuinely do want to support people. And then with like the man hands and stuff, that kind of goes into the craft, the monotony of pursuing excellence, like we were talking about, doing the same thing day in and day out because you enjoy doing the same thing day in and day out, not that you're looking for some specific outcome.
Yeah.
Which ties into kind of the thoughts on with the growing the business and my thoughts around it. It's, I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I know if I do this every day, if I work on the product every day, if I work on the message every day, if I do those daily habits, something will come of it. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I like the consistency through the brand, where you have the name, the MANBAR, which I think meat and nut was the original intention of it, but obviously it's like it has a masculine undertone because it's MANBAR. And then you have these like bigger sticks where it's like, a little bit more than what people bargain for. So it's just like, it feels very authentic to
Good. Thank you. Happy to
the
hear
message and like who you're trying to reach, which I think is an awesome sign.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we could do a bunch of ridiculous stuff with the name, and the product.
Stuff. Yeah.
There's so many directions, inappropriate directions.
Size matters.
There's so
great
much
girth on the bars.
Exactly. Like I mean, we can all get very childish very quickly, and I've done that a lot with friends behind closed doors. Of us riffing on different things, but at the end of the day, it's like, for me, it resonates more to, let's have a genuine product, a genuine message.
Yeah.
Let's support people who are working hard, who are doing cool things. And I think that's a better long-term strategy. I don't want to get in the, we've talked about this. I've largely avoided social media.
Yes.
And, now coming to this, I just don't want to get in that race to the bottom of doing silly stuff.
No, you don't want to just feed the algorithm overlords to get views. You'd rather just take your time and accept the fact that it's going to take me longer, but I'm going to do it my genuine way.
Yeah. I don't think I'd sleep well at night if I'd started going down that route. It would just be so disingenuine for me that I don't know. Totally. My sleep's more important.
Definitely. And I also think too, it's like when you're doing something as difficult as a task that you're doing to like compete in this space, you really need to have a mission that's so powerful that really compels you to overcome the adversity. And I couldn't think of anything more compelling of like, I'm going to create the sustenance that's going to fuel like the hardworking, badass American man and woman. Like that's a powerful mission to get you out of bed, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love it. Can I give y'all something?
That'd be
I brought
amazing.
y'all something that's kind of in line with this. So,
wow.
This is
wow.
I've been taking lessons from our buddy Wyatt.
Wow, dude.
So Wyatt, for everyone listening, Wyatt is a stud of a human being. He works 100-hour weeks and just pretty much makes a knife a day in his workshop. And so this is something, when we talked last week, I drove out to Dripping Springs and he and I made this knife for you.
Wow.
Dude.
So this is
unbelievable.
This is, I want to give Wyatt all the credit.
Wyatt.
I will say that I definitely, you know,
Brother,
I did some hammering on it.
Dude.
But
this thing is so sweet.
Yeah, so it's a 1084 steel carbon. And
the MM.
Yep, we got the Meat Mafia on there on one side, and then his brand on the other side.
I promise you that's going to go to amazing.
Yeah, let me see that real quick.
Yeah.
And then the I don't know if they can see this. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I think it's a work of art.
this is a
beautiful
scorched cherry wood. And then the pins in there are actually mammoth tusks.
Really?
Yeah. So Wyatt's got a really cool process where he doesn't use any plastics. So even in there you see shavings and all that, all wood. Dude. But even the you know, typically like a really nasty epoxy is used as the glue.
Yeah.
So he actually found a way to do it's a pine resin, charcoal ash, and beeswax.
Wow.
And so that's the glue that holds this together.
Wow.
Dude.
And so yeah,
so sick.
We saw the Meat Mafia logo and wanted to make sure y'all had one of these.
This is easily the best gift we've ever gotten. I'm serious,
Thank you
man.
so much,
this is incredible.
So I bring that out now. Like there was a reason to bring that out now, and it's based on what you just were saying about wanting to support people like Wyatt who are doing, again, hard, interesting, cool things. And he's a great guy. Head down and, you know, puts his head down and works. Brilliant. And you know, and it's like if I can support people like him, then, you know, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, man. It's funny that you say that, because Harry and I have been digging into this theme more about like the desire to kind of support the local artisan. And how we've kind of gotten into this Starbucks globalist mentality of like just opting for the cheap, convenient thing.
Okay.
And there's all these amazing like local artisans and business owners and people like Wyatt that are like so proficient in their craft. And you're getting a knife like this where it's like you guys molded everything by hand. You're not compromising on anything. And like the obligation to be able to support someone like that and then like treat your friends to a gift from the product that your buddy created, like that's the type of economy we want to support. And we used to be like that, and I think we can bring it back too. We've just lost our way a little bit, but gifts like this are like the perfect example of that.
Y'all are starting to get into hunting, right?
We want to. Harry went on a hunt.
Okay.
I still have never been on a hunt, but
dipping our toes in. We need to be more intentional about it. But the big plans to make it happen this year for sure.
We can chat more about that after.
Yeah.
But that, I had that in mind for how heavy it is.
Yeah.
Is that's sturdy enough to break down animals.
Wow.
Most of the time, I'm sure it'll be chopping up steaks in the kitchen. But
dude,
that is we made it heavy on purpose so you could get through some bone and all that when you start breaking down animals.
I love it. It's like truly an incredibly thoughtful gift. And just echoing what Brett was saying, it's like we kind of have this just in the modern world, like low time preference. High time preference where we just like want things immediately.
Yeah.
The artist I just feel like the artistic pursuit has been diluted. You know, there are very few people who are truly making things with their hands anymore. Sure. And then, you know, we talk to these regenerative farmers like fairly frequently on the podcast.
They're the best.
It's an art.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're doing things in a way that takes more time and there's more skills and knowledge that goes into it. And then I'm going to bring up KG again. It's like, it's an art. It took him 10 years to figure out how to make this amazing restaurant concept come to life. But no one really knew. No one has. He launched KG like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and he's blown up since. But it's taken him iterations and iterations and this deep, heartfelt pursuit to make it all happen. And I think the idea of being able to support those types of people is just incredible. And the mission of wanting to support and sustain the life of these people who are doing truly awesome things is awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I was very fortunate because I had several friends very close friends that I just feel that it's like, how can I support these guys? They're doing such cool stuff. And so like my muses for this was, you know, two of my best friends. You know, then I met Wyatt. Wyatt instantly became one. You guys, and you know, it's just, you start, when you kind of make that connection, you start meeting people, and it's like, oh man, this, like, principally, this is, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what the application is. Just, if you're getting after it, here's some fuel.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and it's that simple. And again, it may not work. I don't know. But if it doesn't, the messaging feels right. The product is right. And we're going to give it our best shot.
Yeah, man. It's such an amazing story, and we feel lucky to just have gotten to meet you just when you were first starting this journey out. And I think there's like, I think you get the sense of, like, when you launch it, you're thinking to yourself, I think this tastes good. I think the branding is good, but I really don't know. And then you start consistently getting this feedback from the marketplace. And you're like, I know these people aren't just gassing me up. Yeah. Whether it's the branding, the taste of the product, the name MANBAR, I think you just start getting enough affirmation where you're like, damn, there's really something special here.
Yeah, there's legs on this.
And I think Harry and I both just saw it, and then we tasted it, and we were like, and then also meeting you as the owner, you're just like, this guy's got something special here. And I think other people see that. And I just can't wait to see what you end up go on to accomplish this year. And like you said, we can take our time. We can go as fast or as slow as we want to go, because we're in this thing for the long haul too.
No, I appreciate it. I can't, you know, y'all have been, you and I met very early on, and you've been incredible since then. And then Harry, when I met you at KetoCon, right?
Yeah, KetoCon. Yeah, it was the first time we linked up.
No, y'all have been great. And so that, you know, that gift is not just because I'm on the podcast, but it's really all the behind the scenes stuff that we've done. Yeah. Last year, 6 months, however long it's been.
Dude. So, well, it's greatly appreciated, and we're gonna get after it this year together for sure. We're gonna sling some MANBARs.
We're gonna have to save this nice first use for a shared steak. I think. Like, I
love it.
We'll have to grill out one of these weeks. And
but I want to use it.
I've been doing some.
I really want to use it tonight.
Some mean reverse seared cowboy steaks lately.
So you're a good chef, right? Because you love to cook.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's chef's a fair word, but I definitely love cooking. Yeah, and it's, you know, from the hunting. I'd say if I did have one skill coming into this, is I did know how to make food taste good. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that part of my love of hunting is not just, you know, a lot of people hear that word and just think about like the killing of an animal. Mm-hmm. But it really starts from, I mean, you getting ready for a hunt with your friends, to getting out in nature, to sitting out in nature, usually by yourself, to watching the woods wake up and go to bed, to seeing these animals so close. Some of my fondest memories of hunting is like I didn't even pull my bow back. Really? You know, it was just like I had 10, 15 deer around you, and you're hearing them chew. You know, and so you get really familiar, intimate with the animals. You learn a lot more about them. I know infinitely more about whitetail and axis and pigs than I did 10 years ago. And then after the hunt, you get back together with whoever you're hunting with. Yeah. Y'all share stories. There's camaraderie. There's all that. If you get something, then there's the breakdown of the animal, the processing. I do a lot of my own butchering. So there's all those skills that are involved, all those nice skills. Yeah. And then really the kicker for me is let's respect the animal. Let's make this taste really, really good. And let's bring friends and family over and have a cookout. Dude. Yeah. You know, let's have these big meals. So a buddy and I last year did a big outdoor cookout at his place. We did axis deer and wild pig, 2 or 3 different ways each. Yeah. And just invited like 30 people over, and we just had this amazing day of cooking out on an open fire, eating well. People were bringing homemade sourdough bread, and you know, my mom brought these hockey puck, like super dense pumpkin and chocolate chip, you know, muffins that just like, you know, just crushed everyone in a good way, you know. And so that's the stuff that I mean, that's kind of what life's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do hard stuff with people you like, and then find ways to enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's just simple, man. I don't know if there's anything better than just like a workout or a hunt or like, and then just sharing like a great meal with someone.
Absolutely.
Like just good charred meat over the open fire.
Absolutely.
You would love our buddies, Miles and Morgan Weeks.
Okay.
Miles Snyder, he's like an open fire chef. He just moved to
Amazing.
Where's New York? He just moved to, but he was a longtime Austin guy, early 30s. And then Morgan is the head chef at Force of Nature.
Okay.
And so Miles kind of taught Morgan how to cook.
Amazing.
And they both just throw down on the open fire. So next time Miles is in town, we'll all have to do something because I feel like that would be a pretty epic collab.
Oh. Yeah, let's do it.
He's the man.
I've got my buddy Nick is does like he's a chef and does like high end catering.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
And that's who we did it at. We did it at his place. And then this lady, Chef Allison, she's been helping me. She's a rock star. She's been helping me kind of behind the scenes with this. And same thing. She's just a beast. And her and I have been talking about getting some dinner parties and stuff together too. So I'll let y'all know about that.
Dude, a good cookout is just like, it awakens the spirit.
Oh, it's the best.
It's like,
it's the best thing ever.
Those are some of the best memories ever. Just shared meals with people that you care about and love.
And it's heightened, and kind of all that, and it's even heightened more when you killed the animal, you processed it, you butchered it, when there's been meals where like literally I'm the only person that's ever touched the meat that's on people's plate.
That's crazy.
And like that's always cool to say.
Yeah.
That's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely totally rewires your relationship with food, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So at the time of releasing this episode, the new website's going to be live. You'll be pumping.
We'll be live.
So what's the best way for people to connect with you and MANBAR if they want to order some of your amazing product to try?
So trymanbar.com.
Yep.
TRY MANBAR. We will be doing pre-sale orders from now until, fingers crossed, May 1st. We should have product in hand and start shipping.
Nice. So we're in pre-sale mode.
Yeah,
cool.
So people can go on there. They can prepay for packs of 10.
Nice.
We're going to sell them in packs of 10. A little bit of discount if you want to do a monthly thing. And then Instagram, the same thing. Try MANBAR.
Nice.
I think that's about it right now.
Beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to continue to watch the journey too as it unfolds, as you release the product, and hopefully in a few months we can get you back on and we'll do another deep dive into what's
great.
What's up with the brand and things that have happened. I think it'll be a cool story for our audience to follow. We're huge supporters of what you're doing. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think coming back and saying, all right, here's how the first 6 months went.
Right.
Dude, I might be bald from stress and bags under my eyes, but we'll talk about something.
It's like the picture of the president, like year 1 when they get in versus year 4, they've like aged 30 years.
I think Abraham Lincoln was the first one I saw that of. I don't know if you've seen that before and after, but
is it crazy?
I'm gonna have to Google that.
Dude's like 30 before and 70 after.
Dude.
Like in those 4 years, it's insane.
That's crazy. And then he got shot like right after the Civil War ended, I think, too, like a week after the Civil War.
Yeah, they basically they had just signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah. Oh, do we have the goods right here?
I forgot my second product or present for y'all.
Knives and MANBARs.
So these are them.
Look at the size of those things.
They'll be individually wrapped for everyone, but there's a 3-packer.
Dude.
I'd be more generous, but I'm having to be not generous right now until we get our first production run in.
Dude,
those are gonna go to good use.
The first one you gave us went in like it was gone within the hour. So
our buddy Robert Sykes,
he's a beast.
Yeah, I sent him 5 of them, and he called me the next day and he goes, "Dude, I crushed all 5." I was like,
already?
What? Like in one sitting, he was like, "Yeah, I couldn't stop."
Well, that's how good they are, man. And that's why we appreciate you doing this. Like one of the things Harry and I talk a lot about on the show, especially with products like this, is having the mindset of, if not me, then who?
Yeah.
And I think back to, it's like that famous web of, you know, it's all the products in the inner aisle of the grocery store that are really controlled by like 10 companies, and they're all just, you know, Mondelez, Pepsi, Coke, you know, Procter and Gamble, and they're just combining these cheap industrial ingredients and poisoning people, for lack of a better word, whether that's intentional or not. And really the antithesis of that are like people like you and products like this. And, you know, it's more expensive to make, it's harder to scale, but like, what else would you do if you didn't do, like, someone's got to fight for our health, you know? So we're grateful that there's people like you that are just laying it on the line and just creating a badass product to help people get healthier, dude.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And, yeah, we'll do this again very soon.
Sweet. Stoked.
Love it. Thanks, Trev.
Yep.